I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, January the 20th, brought to you in part by Noromycin by Norbrook. Noromycin is your proven go-to antibiotic for seasonal diseases in cattle. It's readily available without a script right now until this summer, and then you're going to have a script for basically anything antibiotic, even penicillin. So you guys need to be looking towards that and starting to prepare for that. But for more information on Noromycin by Norbrook, go to norbrook.com. Giving up gains, and if you just looked at your market this week, and you wouldn't think that we were in the tight supplies that we're going into here historically for cows and cyclically for feeder cattle, and also more so than we've seen at the end of other cycles. But man, everything just went down this week hard. Fat cattle went down, feeder cattle went down. Had a lot to do with the storm that come across the northern plains. Now we're thinking that we may get a storm coming across the southern plains, like in Kansas. We haven't seen much of a storm at all come across the southern plains yet. That's going to make things worse. We say a lot of times that your fat cattle market loves a storm and gets better, but not right when it happens there. And man, these guys that are having these cattle in these muddy lots and snow's deep, and then if it does warm up at all, then it gets worse because it gets so sloppy and the cattle got a lot of mud on them, and they're tired of these cattle. They're tired of this winter. We needed a wet winter like this up in the northern plains because the drought's been bad out there for the last 2 or 3 years. Needed a lot of this wet snow, and they've got a lot of it, guys, and it's going to be a slow melter, and it's going to soak in good, and we're going to have lots and lots of grass in the northern plains this spring whenever it finally warms up. But it's just been really, really tough. Everybody's short on hay to get their cows through. They normally rely on these stock fields. The snow is deeper than the stalks are tall. These newer harvest equipment that they put on these cornfields, they don't leave much stock out there anyway, guys. You know, they kind of have to dig for whatever they get coming out of there, that trash that comes out the back. Not a lot of stock. Well, the snow is deeper than that. So, you know, you're having to feed those cows, and you're just running out of things to feed them, and everything costs more. But Nebraska is the cattle are coming off feed much lighter than normal, and that is causing their cost of gains to go up big time. $1.60 for the term on feed in some cases because of the battles that they've had with the cold and the storms, and the cattle not gaining and then coming off much lighter than what they thought. It's making those cost of gains go up. Well, it's making the cattle lose money. They may have lost money anyway, but they're losing more money than what they thought they were going to lose. But it's tough sledding up in the northern plains for finishing cattle, and the cattle aren't grading as well as even Kansas. Kansas has got a higher percentage of high choice and prime than Nebraska does right now, and that is sure not the norm at all. I feel like these runs are going to drop off big on the feeder cattle auctions here. We're already seeing them drop off. Now, they've been really heavy all through the late fall and through the winter here, the early winter, and into the new year. But now we've run out of them, and I think we may have to see really tight numbers of cattle showing up at these sale barns for the rest of the industry, and those especially outside the industry, to understand how tight we are going to be on calves, because you know, our calf crop is down big, and most of us, I know I do, believe it's down more than what they have been advertising. And I think, and we've been selling the cattle earlier. We're going to see a huge drop off in these receipts in these auction barns coming up here within just a few weeks, guys, I believe. But we give up the gains on the fat cattle market. You know, you just have to scratch and claw to try to gain $1 or $2 here and there, and then you just give it all up at once. We're selling the fat cattle, $2 to $3 lower in the northern plains, $2 to $4 lower dress basis already, and we really haven't got a full establishment of the market. But these guys in the southern plains are selling their cattle at 155. They scraped and clawed there, and 2 weeks ago got up to 157. Felt so good about that. They haven't had any of the weather that they've had in the northern plains. Don't have muddy cattle, don't have the bitter cold or anything, and had to drop back to 155. Very, very frustrating for them to do that. Most of the cattle in the southern plains, especially Texas, sell on a formula, Sweetheart, some kind of a deal. I guess the politically correct term is as AMA, or Alternative Marketing Agreement. You know what that agreement is on the bulk of the cattle that sell in Texas? $1 over the market. And you think, well, why are all these packers wanting to pay $1 over the market? Why don't they just buy them at the market? It's worth $1 to them to give for all those cattle to keep those feedlots out of negotiated trade and keep the competition down and keep the price discovery down. You've only got 5 or 6 feedlots in the whole Texas Panhandle that are actually selling cattle every week negotiated. I mean, it's not very many at all. I mean, it's much less than most people think, and they would much rather just give $1 over on many of the feedlots' cattle, even plain cattle, even Mexicans. They would rather just give $1 over the market, and then they don't have to worry about them trading in the negotiated trade, stirring up more leverage, stirring up more competition and all. And remember, I've told you the number one thing that you have to do to enter into one of those alternative marketing agreements is promise all your cattle to one packer, eliminating competition. That's what they've got. That's what your formula Sweetheart deal is for the most part in the Texas Panhandle. Cattle on Feed report today, 2 o'clock Central, and I just think it's going to be a bear. They've got the placements figured just over 91%. Where else are you going to put cattle? You're going to put them out on the dirt, where they planted some wheat, but there's no wheat. There's no grass out there to put them on any kind of grass pastures. I don't know where they're coming up with the just over 91% on placements. If it would happen to come in less than 93, if it would come in at 92 or 3, I think it should be bullish, but it's going to look bearish compared to the average of the analysts' guess, and I'm not liking this cattle on feed report at all. Your total inventories for January 1st, they've got them at 96.7, marketing's at 94.7. But let's look at your board on Thursday. February live cattle futures down 85 cents at 155.95. Why wouldn't they be down? They weren't down as much as the cash market today or on Thursday. April down $1.10, 159.12. Your back months on live cattle down 45 cents to down 87 cents. January feeder cattle down hard too, down $1.40 at 178.10. And the cash feeder market is dropping at least that fast or faster. March feeder cattle down $1.62 at 180.10, just clinging on to the 180. Your back months on feeder cattle, the closer ups were down 2 cents to down $1.15. Your last traded month on your feeder cattle is November of 23, and it was up 35 cents. Your grains were down too, so that wasn't the answer. It was the fat cattle and the weather and just the cash markets. But March corn down 4 cents, settling at 6.77 and a quarter cent a bushel for regular trading. March beans down 9 3/4 cents at 15.14 3/4. Fat cattle trade did start to develop, and I'm afraid it's probably established, and it's established lower for sure. We're confidential in Colorado because they don't have enough negotiated trade to get through the confidentiality filters. But Iowa sold 3,100 head. They've only sold 5,000 for the week. Normally 20 to 30,000. But live sales $2 to $3 lower from 153 to 157, and dress sales all at 248, and that's $2 to $4 lower. Nebraska 5,800 head traded on Thursday, just 8,600 head for the week. Few live sales in Nebraska at 155. Nebraska feedlot conditions are worse than Iowa, and lots of mud on those cattle. They don't want to buy them live because the dressing percentage is terrible on those cattle, and they're ending up giving more for the beef that they're getting because there's so much weight on the hide. And some of these cattle not even dressing 61%, where normally they would dress around 64. But dress sales, which shouldn't make a difference because they pull that hide off there before they weigh them on the hot scales, but it's lower, 248 to 249, some 249 in Nebraska. Kansas, just 2,100 head on Thursday. That's all they've sold for the week. 155, a buck lower. That's going to be the market in the Southern Plains. Texas, only 600 head, confirmed sales on Thursday at 155. Box beef cutout values were mixed, with choice cuts down 257. That's not a little bit down, that's a bunch down at 271.51. Selects were up a buck 83 at 255.69. Your slaughter, like I said, we had some slowdowns on Thursday, on Wednesday mainly. 493,000 through the first 4 days of the week. That's 12,000 less than last week at the same point, and 32,000 more than the same week a year ago. Your actual slaughter information come in, it's always 2 weeks late. 919 pounds for your average dressed steer carcass weight. That's 4 pounds bigger than the previous report, but we come through the cold snap. So you remember the cold snap we had before Christmas and kind of during Christmas there. Well, we come through that, and then that's the information for that. Those cattle had gained a lot of that weight back. To talk about what else is going on, if you like this report but you don't find it on a regular basis, we want you to be able to find it easily. You can text the word flash, or basically you can text anything, to 209 Corbett or 209-267-2488. Just put that number in, text the word flash to them, and every morning, every business morning, you'll get this report, the link to this report, text to your phone for free. You can hit that link, watch the feeder flash, and get that information right there. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV Auction, based on an 800-pound steer up through the middle 12 states. Late in the day on Thursday, sitting at 175.98. That's down 58 cents. You notice your CME cash feeder cattle index has dropped a bunch too, but that real-time index has dropped a ton this week. It's always up to date and current. Going to be a pretty good run out in Fallon, Nevada. I'm not going to be able to make it out there because I already had scheduled things going on, but Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada, and that's Jack Payne out there. 3,500 head. If you guys out in California are looking for some hard stockers to put on those wet pastures you've got, you can find them right there. They were expecting a much larger run, maybe twice that large, but the weather hasn't kind of cleared up yet. It's still really, really wet out there, still working through some of the rainstorms and things, so they'll likely get those cattle next month, so be looking for that. But you can view and bid that sale at Nevada Livestock Marketing on dvauction.com. It starts at noon West Coast time there on Friday. Talk about your big sales on Thursday. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas, 2,100 head was all. Last year at the same sale they had 4,400 head, but they have had several calf specials, which they have those every year, but they've had some good runs at their calf specials. But market was uneven, mostly lower for your Farmers and Ranchers Livestock there in Salina, Kansas. Go straight south from there in south central Kansas. Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas, 1,600 head. Same sale a year ago, 2,700 head. Market was $3 to $6 lower in Pratt. Your Zoetis stick out sale of the day was Torrington Livestock Markets in Torrington, Wyoming, 5,400 head. Market was steady to $5 lower for the most part. Look at your best tested weights there. 823 head of 6-weight steer calves in Torrington, average 642 with a weighted average price of $199.22. Pretty impressive. 1,084 head of 7-weight short yearlings there in Torrington, average 736 with a weighted average price of $184.50. Look at some of the heifers. How about 600 head of 5-weight heifer calves, average 549, weighted average price on them $195.48, and 686 head of 6-weight heifer calves, average 648, weighted average price on them $180.55. Give you several individual quotes from all around the region. How about Maryville Livestock Auction in Maryville, Missouri? Was formerly United Producers years ago, but then was closed and opened back up now as Maryville Livestock Auction. Getting a lot of those cattle that used to go to the St. Joe stockyards starting to come around. They're starting to get the guys to come back into that market. They sold 70 head, 815-pound steers at $174 on Thursday. That's pretty good, guys. It don't get a heck of a lot better than that. How about a market out in the Northwest? Toppenish Livestock Commission in Toppenish, Washington. That's close to where they've had all that moisture. 75 head, 617-pound steers bring $208.75. Columbus Sales Pavilion, Columbus, Nebraska. They sell them good up there. 76 head, 862-pound steers bring $180.50, and that was tops on those guys. But the most impressive quote that I saw on Thursday in your Macrison No BS top quote for the day come out of Orland Livestock Commission Yard, and that's in Orland, California. That's where they've had all that moisture, and they're going to have more grass than they know what to do with. 67 head, 533-pound steer calves bring $2.50 a pound. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.